Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's video. This episode will guide you through the issues of the Uncanny X-Men published by Marvel Comics in 1976. Issue number 98. It's Christmas time in New York, the most wonderful time of the year. And for the first time in years, it's actually a white Christmas. The members of the X-Men, accompanied by the former member Jean Grey and Moira McTaggart, are enjoying the festivities. What's considered a normal holiday season for resident New Yorkers is not normal for some of the X-Men. Not only is this part of the city covered in Christmas decorations and lights, but now also with snow, fitting the Christmas spirit. However, Piotr and Kurt are more enamored by two ladies, and they don't seem to mind it one bit. Moira and Sean break off from the group as they plan to navigate through the streets of New York by themselves. Jean asks Wolverine what he will do, but he tells her that he doesn't care one bit about Christmas. Even so, he wishes them a nice time. Jean and Scott make their way inside a restaurant to continue on their date by themselves. Scott tells Jean that he thinks Wolverine is a strange man, that even though they have been together for almost a year, he's still not sure if Wolverine will work out on the team. But then again, he tells her, he was sure about his brother Alex and Lorna Dane, yet they tried to kill them and the rest of the team only a couple of weeks ago. Jean then tells him to stop it. It's Christmas and he should let it go. He's been tearing himself up over what happened with Alex, and she wants him to give it a rest. Just this once. And she wants him to kiss her. Since she has to ask him twice, she simply forces herself on him, and of course, Scott does not object. Unlike the two older men who happen to pass them, and they notice how these young kids have no respect. Scott compliments Jean as they make their way to their table, and he tells her he loves her. And Jean tells him that she's glad to hear that. This promises to become a joyful night, a nice lovely dinner in a chic restaurant overlooking New York from several stories up. But then, Scott notices there's something huge outside, and it seems to be tearing at the roof. Scott yells out for Jean, as they now see what has torn the roof of the restaurant straight off. The Sentinels have returned. Enormous mutant hunting robots programmed with one single objective, spelling out doom for all mutant kind. For tonight though, their main mission programming requires the capture of the mutants known as Cyclops and Marvel Girl. This new line of Sentinels have been equipped with the newest technology to negate their powers, as Scott soon finds out. His concussive eye blasts are hardly slowing them down, if at all. Jean says that hopefully the Sentinels are referring to the old X-Men team the Sentinels had fought years ago, and are not familiar with how much stronger Jean has become over the years. And she attacks one of the Sentinels with a powerful telekinetic mind blast, which throws the Sentinel off balance. This forces the Sentinel outside of the building, allowing Scott to unleash his full powers of his optic blast, which tears the Sentinel's chest apart. In other words, one Sentinel down and one more to go. But the second Sentinel is already aware of the other Sentinel being dysfunctional, and is now forced to take extreme caution against Scott. As he's holding Jean in his one hand, he blasts Scott with the other, before either one is able to do something about it. And Scott never had a chance. Jean, who is being fearful of the Sentinel having killed Scott, gets gassed unconscious. The Sentinel then flies off with her, reporting back on the mission, including the termination of the mutant called Cyclops. But we find out that Scott did not die in the Sentinel's attack on him. At least, not yet. His chest hurts from the blast. It feels like it's on fire, but he has another situation to concern himself with at this very moment. The thrust created by the Sentinel's liftoff is causing the wreckage of the building to collapse, throwing Scott off the roof. His only chance is to grab a hold of the radio mast close by, and then pray that it will hold his weight, because if it doesn't, it's a 60-story drop to the pavement below, with no one around to catch him as he falls. Luckily, it holds, but only barely. He can tell that if he moves as much as an inch, it might just break still. All he can do is stay where he is and just hold on, not knowing for how long he will have to hang around like this, nor how long he will be able to. We then move back in time for about a minute's worth, to ground level, where the remains of the Sentinel which got wrecked by Cyclops' optic blast crashes on the ground. The civilians scatter, knowing how dangerous it will be to be standing around here, thinking it's all part of the building. But Banshee knows that this is no building. He recognizes the parts flying around are from a Sentinel, and he immediately starts using his powers to uncover his costume. He then tells Moira and Storm to find Nightcrawler and Colossus and warn them about the attack of the Sentinels. He himself will be flying up towards where the Sentinels' remains drop down from, because he figures Marvel Girl and Cyclops will need all the help they can get. Storm asks him what a Sentinel is, and all Banshee can tell her is that to mutants, Sentinels equal death. As Banshee lifts himself from the ground, Wolverine grabs him by the ankles and joins him. He is not letting his teammate get into a fight by himself. Storm then uses her powers as well, and the bystanders are now aware of the fact that this scenario involves the presence of mutants, both due to Storm's display of powers, as well as what Banshee just said. Instead of joining Moira to search for Colossus and Nightcrawler like Banshee had told her to do, Storm flies to the roof of the building as well. Same as Wolverine, she will not stay behind and let her teammates fight the Sentinels without her, so she follows right behind Banshee. She sees Cyclops hanging on the radio mast and tells him to not be afraid because he's safe now. He's glad to see her and that the Sentinels were not able to catch them all. She asks him what he means by that, and he tells her that a bunch of them just plucked Wolverine and Banshee out of the sky, and there wasn't a thing he could do to stop that from happening. Storm then makes sure by asking Cyclops if the Sentinels are large metallic robots. He confirms this, but he doesn't understand her asking this question, until he sees a large shadow dropping over them, that is. One more of the Sentinels is right there behind him. This Sentinel attacks Cyclops immediately, attempting to correct the error of the other Sentinel's report of Cyclops' death. Storm, being shocked by this brutal attack on Cyclops and then getting attacked herself, unleashes all her primal forces of nature and directs it at the Sentinel. The Sentinel starts telling Storm that they've been programmed and equipped to deal with any and all mutant powers, but it quickly finds out that it cannot counter the forces of nature that easily. Storm creates a hurricane, right above Rockefeller Center. The sheer force of the winds, the turbulence, as well as the lightning bolts cause the system overload in the Sentinel and tear it apart. The civilians close by are amazed at what they see happening in the skies above them, and they can't believe their eyes. Cyclops tells her to stop it before she destroys the whole of the city, and Storm tells him that there is no need to worry. She says that she has total control over her weather manipulating powers, and nothing was harmed in the process, apart from the Sentinel. Scott understands now, and he mentions that if Professor X had been here, but then it hits Scott. The Professor does not know about these new Sentinels, and he has to be warned about their existence. If it's not already too late. We then shift 1,000 miles south on the globe, where during the daytime, a private yacht is trolling the islands. It is here that Professor Charles Xavier has come to spend his vacation of sorts and to ask an old friend for help. Xavier is currently fishing as his old friend, Peter Corbeau, director of the United Nations Project StarCorps among other things, approaches him. Xavier has come here to ask Peter to look into the binary star system, which he has been having vivid dreams of as of late. Such vivid dreams that Xavier thinks there might be more to them than just dreams. But Corbeau tells Xavier that that specific binary star system he described does not seem to exist. Xavier asks him if he's absolutely sure and if he hasn't overlooked something. But Corbeau tells Xavier that he should know better than that. He has checked the program a dozen times over. He has even ran a query through the Fantastic Four and Avengers charts, but the result was the same. Corbeau then tells Xavier that he has been under a lot of strain lately, possibly more than any man could bear, and that it could just be that this star system doesn't even exist, and that it's all just in his mind. This is something which Xavier did not need to be told, because he himself has been having doubts about his own mental stability. Xavier asks Corbeau if he thinks that he's insane, but he tells him that he thinks he's just tired. That's all. But he does think that he should seek professional help. And right at that moment, there's a tug at the line of the fishing rod. But it is not a fish doing the tugging. It's a Sentinel, emerging from under the water, telling Xavier that it has come for him. Xavier doesn't understand how the Sentinel found him, because his mental defenses should have shielded him, but obviously that is not the case. Xavier immediately attacks it with a powerful mind blast. Finding Xavier is one thing, but taking him captive is another. Xavier's mind blast penetrates the Sentinel's shields and is not able to compensate in time, making it lose its balance and fall backwards. Xavier thinks to himself that he's clearly drained from the mental tension lately, because his attack should have actually destroyed the Sentinel altogether. Xavier tells Corbeau to start the boat's engine and to leave this place. And Corbeau responds by saying that Xavier has bought them enough time for them to get out of there fast. He tells Xavier to keep an eye on the boat, while he tries to get a hold of his contacts in the Air Force. But as Corbeau broadcasts a media signal, Xavier is overcome by a barrage of images, words and colors. It seems to him as if worlds unknown are crashing together and dying. He's seeing so many images right now, and through them all, a terrible aching need, and also an unfamiliar, familiar face. He screams out loud, and Corbeau can hear her scream, and he would have done something to try and aid Xavier, but he never got the chance. Another Sentinel attacks them, this time crashing the vessel they are on, and throwing both Xavier and Corbeau in the water. The Sentinel tells Xavier that he can't escape. As Corbeau is trying to get back to the surface, he is starting to worry. He's not sure if his lungs will hold, since he couldn't prepare for having to go underwater. But he makes it. He calls out for Xavier, but then sees the Sentinel leaving the area, holding Xavier captive. He overhears the Sentinel's report on the mission and hears it say that it's going back to the base, but that its sensors indicate that solar radiation is nearing its tolerance level. But for now, that is not Peter Corbeau's concern. He finds himself shipwrecked about 200 miles from land, and he's not even sure if anyone heard his Mayday distress signal. Several days later, we find out what has happened to the members of the X-Men whom the Sentinels abducted, as they are being examined by scientists led by Dr. Stephen Lang. He's getting informed by his personnel that they will have to shut down the Sentinels' operations for the time being because of the solar radiation storms. Stephen Lang understands, and tells them they will have to make do with the mutants they already have in captivity for the time being. There seems to be some confusion among the scientists about Wolverine, whether he's a mutant or not, because his readings are unlike the others. But Lang says that the Sentinels confirm him being a mutant. And, according to Lang, whether Wolverine is a mutant or not, he is certainly not human. Wolverine is getting annoyed and tells Lang to keep it up and he'll do something. But Lang tells him he won't do a thing. The shackles he's holding Wolverine in are unbreakable. Marvel Girl then asks Lang where Swastika is, but Lang tells her he's not a Nazi, he's just a man doing his duty. So Marvel Girl asks him if he's just following orders then, and he tells her that mutant kind is the enemy, and he has to find a way to destroy them. She then asks why he started with the X-Men, and he tells her that the X-Men have been the most effective mutant opposition to the Sentinels. She herself, Cyclops and Xavier are the heart and soul of this opposition. If you will be able to take them out of the equation, the Sentinels will be unbeatable. Marvel Girl then calls him a sad, screwed up and pathetic little man, and asks him if he really thinks the X-Men are this easily beaten. Lang tells her yes, and then smacks her with the back of his hand in her face. This now triggers Wolverine more than anything Lang had said before. He extends his claws, which break the supposedly unbreakable shackles. Lang quickly tries to run away and activates one of the Sentinels while guardsmen try to subdue Wolverine. To no avail. Lang then instructs the Sentinel to secure the mutant, alive if it can, but dead if it must. Wolverine is a lot harder to subdue for the Sentinel, as it quickly finds out. Where he was easily captured while hanging onto Banshee ankles a few days ago, on his feet, Wolverine is a way bigger threat. All the guardsmen then flee after they've seen Wolverine tear up a Sentinel all by himself. They all know that they don't stand a chance against him. This is the first time Wolverine's teammates have seen him using his claws without his costume on, and they now realize that his claws are part of his body and not part of the costume. Wolverine asks what Marvel Girl is trying to do, and she tells him that she's trying to tear up her dress, because it's too tight around her legs for being in a running fight, Wolverine is glad to help her out with that, as he grabs a part of it and rips a huge part of Marvel Girl's dress. She yells out to him because she didn't want it to be this short, but Wolverine likes it this way just fine. They now start to make a plan to escape this facility. Wolverine wants to leave Xavier behind for now, with him being crippled and unconscious. But Marvel Girl and Banshee are not having that. They want to take Xavier along with them, but while they're arguing about it, one more Sentinel barges through the walls. Banshee takes care of this one and tells the others to head for the other door, and he will try to cover them. But before they know it, there are Sentinels everywhere. Banshee tells his teammates to hurry up and to hit them with everything they can, before the Sentinels can react and counter their attacks. Marvel Girl then notices something being off, because their powers are easily chopping the Sentinels to bits. Wolverine tells her to not look a gift horse in the mouth. Marvel Girl then warns him, and that's when he notices he's getting grabbed from behind. But it's too late and he cannot get away in time. The Sentinel has Wolverine pinned, with the robot's fingers wrapped around his arms and body, so he cannot use his claws to slash himself free. Marvel Girl then focuses all her telekinetic powers into a tight mind blast, trying to fuse the robot's computer brain, and she's successful in doing so, liberating Wolverine. But the robot itself topples and comes falling right at Marvel Girl herself. There's no time for her to run out of harm's way, but luckily for her, the Banshee is here to save her. He then flies himself and Marvel Girl towards Wolverine and grabs him as well, using his sonic scream to not only fly them out of there, but to tear a hole through the walls of the rooms next to the one they were in. And then, his scream just suddenly stops. He can see New York from where he's at, but he will not be able to reach it. So close, yet so far away. And his friends in New York, Cyclops and Nightcrawler, still have no idea where their lost teammates are. Cyclops has had Cerebro scanning the entire world twice now, but no sign of them anywhere. Nightcrawler then tells Cyclops that he's been burning himself out. He has been at it for 4 days now, with no rest and barely any food. Cyclops tells him that he knows what he's doing, and if he wants Nightcrawler's advice, he will ask him for it. Then suddenly the intruder alarm goes off. There seems to be someone climbing over the back wall. Cyclops then tells Nightcrawler to stay here while he will go check out who it is. But Nightcrawler is already on it. He has already teleported himself outside. Cyclops then recognizes who the supposed intruder is. He remembers Xavier's old friend Peter Corbeau. After having told Peter Corbeau all that has happened in the past couple of days, he introduces him to the rest of the team in Moira, telling them that Corbeau has come here to help. He then tells Corbeau that he has been using Cerebro, but that it can't find the missing teammates, not even a residual trace, and the only way for that to happen is for them to be dead. Cyclops, however, will not accept that. But what other choice do they have when it seems like they've vanished from the face of the earth? And then Peter Corbeau gets it. That is precisely why Cerebro scans couldn't find them, and that's the reason why the Sentinel which attacked Corbeau and Xavier was so worried about solar flares. Their lost teammates and Professor Xavier are currently not on planet Earth at all. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. You can help growing this channel by liking, subscribing and sharing. This tells YouTube that the videos I'm making should be recommended to others and would be very much appreciated. See you next episode.